Hey everyone, Damien the Kung Fit coach here. Today we're going to be looking at some more stretches for our hips and legs to try and relieve some of that tightness that you've probably developed from sitting down so much during lockdown. Last week we looked at things for the hip flexors and the quads. Today we're going to go to the back of the body and we're going to look at glutes, hamstrings and calves. If you haven't seen last week's video, then do go check that out after this one. And if you've not subscribed, make sure you click that button, hit the notification bell, and if you want, you can head over to kungfit.coach and sign up for my newsletter. Right, let's get into it. Alright then, so there are lots of different stretches we can do for our posterior chain, and today I'm going to focus on some ones that kind of run up the middle, if you will. It's an area that tends to really get tight if we sit down a lot, and if we want to get full range flexibility for things like high kicks, we're stretching out that entire chain at once. These stretches will really help with that. So the first thing we're going to do is just a basic hamstring stretch, and that's going to focus on the lower part of the hamstring. It's what I would recommend as your default kind of hamstring stretch most of the time, but you do want to make sure you get a few little things right, otherwise you're not going to be getting the most out of this. So I'm going to put my right leg out in front and I'm going to keep it straight. If you do have difficulty keeping it straight, you can just apply some gentle pressure just above the knee, just help keep it in the right position. And then I'm going to bend my other leg slightly just to allow me to get down a little. Now from here I'm going to push my hips back and I'm going to hinge at the waist. And notice my body is staying neutral as I go down. So this is the mistake that a lot of people make. They think I'm trying to get my head as low as possible, so they arch their body forwards and think about getting their forehead down to their toes. But that just relieves some of that stretch on the hamstrings, so we don't want to do that. So you push the hips back, we bend at the hips, and we keep our back neutral, we bend forwards, and we think about our chin heading towards our toes instead. Again, we try and keep that leg straight, and we just get as low as we can and feel a stretch along that hamstring. Now, from here, you want to relax down into the stretch more on your out breaths. So you breathe in, breathe out, relax, and sink a little bit lower. And as you find the stretch gets easier and easier, try and sink a bit lower and lower and lower. And that's really all there is to this stretch. Now I say, I find this works the bottom of the hamstring a little bit more, and less so the top of the hamstring. So the next stretch we're going to do is going to focus on that real top area of the hamstring to make sure that that doesn't get missed. For that top hamstring area, we're going to crouch down into a kind of lunge type position, one leg behind, one leg in front. And then I'm just going to extend that front foot out a little bit, so I'm really spreading my hips. I'm going to take my front arm, and I'm going to take it underneath my front leg, and then out to the outside. So my right hand is outside my right foot. And then left hand's just going to offer a little bit of extra support, and I lean forward. And I lean forward as much as I possibly can, and if I need to I can also scoot that left knee back a little bit, and the more I lean forward the more of a stretch I'll get, and as I say, you should really feel this up towards the top of the hamstring, which doesn't often get stretched quite so much in some of the hamstring stretches that people usually do. And then of course we can do this on the other side as well. For this next stretch, we're going to look at stretching out kind of the lower middle part of the glute, which again is an area that doesn't get stretched a huge amount, but for those really extended leg positions is really important to make sure you have the flexibility there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab myself, just a weight, but you can have any kind of elevated surface. I'm going to pop it on the floor. I'm going to put both feet this time elevated up onto it. So just balls my feet up onto the weight, and then from here I'm going to bend forward. But rather than straightening out the legs, because that's going to again put the pressure of the stretch onto the hamstrings, I'm going to bend them just a little bit, and I'm going to poke my bum backwards, and then I'm going to lean forwards. Now you might need to adjust the position slightly as you get down here, so I'm just going to push my bum a little bit further back, and now I'm feeling the stretch just here, so kind of where the hamstring meets the glute. And it's quite a difficult area to stretch, but a really important one too. So I can lean forward a little bit more, I can push my bum back a little bit more. You'll probably also get a little bit in the upper calf and the lower hamstring, but primarily you'll be stretching here. As I say, you probably want to play around with this one a little bit, find the position that works best for you, and once you get it, you'll know it and you'll be able to get into it more easily. But it's an area that isn't stretched particularly well with a lot of the more traditional, shall we say, glute stretches, so make sure you incorporate this one. For a final stretch then, we are going to use our elevated surface again, and this is actually going to stretch that entire posterior chain all at once, including the calf, which we've not really done much of before. So this time it's just going to be a single leg elevated, so ball of the foot on our surface, and we're going to keep this leg straight, and it's going to be basically a combination of the first and the third stretch that we did. So from here, I'm going to bend my left leg just a little bit, and then I'm going to lean forward. Again, I'm pushing my hips back, I'm keeping my back neutral, and I lean forward. As I lean, the more I lean, I'll get more of a stretch on my calf, I'll get a stretch in my hamstring, and I'll also get a bit of a stretch up towards that lower glute area as well. And this really emulates that stretched out position of the entire leg. The more I drop down, remembering to keep my back neutral, the more of a stretch I'll get. Now the good thing about this stretch is, as well as practicing that fully stretched out elongated position, it really targets your tightest area. So say your calves are your tightest area, you'll probably get more of a stretch in your calf than the other parts. If your hamstring is the tightest area, you'll get more of a stretch there. So it helps you identify what's the limiting factor on your posterior chain flexibility, and obviously helps you improve the flexibility in that, whilst also working on some of the other areas as well. So it's a really good one to do, but I would generally advise you do it at the end. Make sure you've stretched each thing individually first. Obviously you can stretch the calf on its own as well, and I've shown you how to do that in the Poo video a few weeks ago, so make sure you check that one out as well. So that's it, we've got our posterior chain stretches. Again, that's really going to help relieve some of that hip tightness, and also some of that lower back pain you might get from sitting down all day. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.